We're set up for about 42 PSI. Will our 1997 Mitsubishi Eclipse GSX all-wheel drive hit a 9-second pass at 150 miles an hour? That's what we're gonna find out, but first, we have a couple problems. Problem number one, the car is maxing out at about 38 pounds of boost, which is not that much. The car is set up to hit so much more faster. Honestly, guys, we should be pushing about 45 pounds of boost, no problem, out of the 67. But I found out the wastegates are being blown open by the exhaust of the engine, so we gotta reroute the boost lines and set up the new boost curve for this thing. Next up is this little guy. In our previous videos, you guys saw us install our new fuel cell with our radium surge tank, all 4 relays, and so far you guys haven't seen is I hooked up a hop switch to this thing, which it works great. Inside our surge tank, we're running 3 fuel pumps and then a Bosch 44 that's under the car that supplies it. We have 3 relays going and 1 relay here. I have it wired up where 1 fuel pump comes on all the time, and then at 4 PSI, the other 2 relays come on. Problem is, fuel pressure spikes up to like 67 PSI. Also, because it's a hatchback car for NHRA, we had to put this giant heat shield, which is kind of like a firewall that protects the driver if something was to happen with all this fuel, which obviously safety first. But the big problem with the car, as soon as 4 PSI hits, this fuel pressure spikes up like crazy and makes the car run super rich. I don't want to tune it out. It's just super difficult. So from now, we're going to be running this Fuel Lab 565 oversized fuel pressure regulator. This thing is massive. I mean, just compare the size comparison. This thing has a 1/2-inch orifice. That thing's a freaking baby. Will it fit though? This is a complete night and day difference. Now I was running the Fuel Lab Mini, which honestly, it worked perfectly fine for what I was originally doing. But now that we have dash 10 lines, 4 fuel pumps going, pretty much 3, it requires we have to remove a lot of fuel pressure from the system. Now this one just wasn't handling it. I'm hoping that we install this one, I can run all 3 at the same time and it'd be enough to bypass and bring the fuel pressure down to 43.5 PSI. But the problem is, this thing is so freaking massive, I don't know if it's gonna fit in there. Hopefully. Yep, I was afraid of that. Now to give you guys a really good understanding on these 2 different fuel pressure regulators, that piece of metal inside there on our big fuel pressure regulator, that's the bypass valve. You see how that's about a 1/2 inch? That thing is massive. That's going to allow a lot of fuel to bypass. Now in our small one, it's super hard to see just because it's so tiny. You see that little metal orifice right there? That thing is puny. That's less than probably 1/8 of an inch. There's no way this fuel pressure regulator was going to bypass 3 Walbro 450 fuel pumps at the same time. Now I made this bracket. I'm hoping I can drop the regulator far enough where it doesn't hit the hood. What a huge difference going from something like this, puny, to something like this is freaking behemoth. It's massive. So let's test out the fuel pressure. Remember, we want 43.5 PSI. Now if you guys don't remember, we're using ECM Link V3 for the whole fuel system. Key on. Again, we're gonna click on activate fuel pump on at all times. All 4 fuel pumps are running. We have a fuel line pressure of about 50.44. Not horrible so far. So we got some problems, but we also got some solutions. I ordered the 40 to 80 PSI pressure regulator. Obviously, we need to be down upwards of 43 PSI. Maximum with this thing backed all the way out, for example, we can't adjust it no more. A minimum of 49 PSI. With all 3 fuel pumps running, it's putting out just a little bit too much pressure, but I got off the phone with Fuel Lab and they told me one important thing. So I should have went with the 25 to 60 PSI regulator. Problem is, we don't have enough time, but he told me that I could take this regulator apart and there's 2 springs inside. I removed the small spring and it should lower it down to a 25 to 60 PSI regulator. In turns, we could probably lower pressure to our 43.5 PSI. Problem is, I just got to take it all apart again. Fuel Lab to the rescue. I got off the phone with them. They said to take out the smaller spring, which is the smaller helper spring. Comes out easy and just leave the big spring in. That should get me down to 25 to 60 PSI, which we can adjust it for 43.5 PSI. Thanks, guys. I'm bypassing the hob switch, simulating that all 3 fuel pumps are on at the same time. Check this out. Now that we took out that helper spring, check this out. I'm able to bring down fuel pressure down to 43 PSI. That's exactly what we want. That helper spring helped tremendously. Also, I got a better way of putting gas too. Now she's not empty, but she's not full. So that's a little better. Now for the real test. fuel pressure issue. Now I'm gonna go over the boost issue on this car, which, believe it or not, guys, this car only able to hit in the last couple months about 38 to 39 PSI. No matter what, even if I up the boost controller to 50 pounds of boost, believe it or not, the maximum it sees is 39 PSI. Which that's because how I have the wastegates wired up. If you guys notice, I have all my boost lines going to the bottom port of the wastegates. Obviously, I'm running a twin scroll turbocharger, so I have two wastegates, but I'm using the bottom port only, so there's no pressure being put on the wastegates at all. So how I'm going to wire them up is I'm going to be putting the boost source to the top of the port as well, along with the bottom, more or less how they're supposed to be ran, and retune the boost curve. That means we are going to be going on a test drive when this is done. We're set up for about 42 PSI. So last night did not go as expected, you guys. Here's what happened. Fuel pressure is spot on, as you can see, at a 95 PSI. It doesn't drop whatsoever, but the problem is we're maxing out at 39.5 PSI. Honestly, guys, I've been spending hours trying to get it above 39 PSI. We saw 40, but it literally cannot get any more. Tried everything from going to a different route on the wastegate vacuum lines, plugging the top ports. I've done a lot, and what I come to realize is that more than likely the turbo is maxed out. When I mean the turbo is maxed out, I'm talking about the back pressure. I'm assuming the back pressure is so high on this vehicle that it just can't boost no more, and that's kind of what I'm at, because I've done a boost leak test. It holds 40 PSI boost, no problem whatsoever. I even went as far as taking off the boost line so the wastegates don't see any pressure whatsoever. And then I tried wiring it back up where I'm putting boost pressure on top of the wastegate so it stays shut. But the problem, I think, is my exhaust housing on this turbocharger. It's probably too small, and what it's doing, it's building up too much pressure on the exhaust side, not allowing the compressor side to spool up. But we have a fix for that too. Now, as you guys seen before, we already knew that was going to be a problem. So that why we got this beautiful G42 capable of 1500 horsepower. The thing is massive, and honestly, we shouldn't develop much back pressure with this thing. IFO is tomorrow, and the car is maxing out at 39 PSI. I don't know if we're going to be able to hit a 9-second pass at 150. I mean, I'm going to try, I'm going to do my best. I'm either going to break the car or I'm going to hit a 9. Either one, we're not leaving IFO without a 9-second pass. And remind you guys, this is a full weight, full leather interior race car that, well, we're gonna hope we can go fast with this thing. Now, when I say a lot of things has changed since last night, you guys, I ended up removing one relay for the fuel pump, so now I only have two fuel pumps going. One of them is on a hob switch, so I have one at all times, and the second one turns on when it hits 4 PSI. Now, the problem with this is, obviously, it was way too much fuel. We already knew that. This setup is for our bigger turbocharger that's in the garage. But two Walbro 450s is feeding this engine up to 750 plus. Honestly, no problem whatsoever. And we'll just plug that little guy back in when we put the big boy on. Fuel pressure is perfect, by the way, with this fuel lap. Taking out the spring made such a big difference on this thing. Now, for the car show, we decided to leave the Evo here, and unfortunately, we just don't have enough drivers. Now, we're going to be taking the Supra, putting it in the car show, and obviously, we're going to be racing the GSX next video. So hopefully, you guys hit that subscribe button. I know this video was a little bit odd, but we're going to be racing the car next video. Going to want to check it out and see if we hit our 9-second pass at 150 miles an hour. So just like that, I hope to see you guys in the next video. Cross your fingers, safety first, as always. I'll see you later. Bye. Hold on just a minute. Yeah, we kind of figured out the issue. I didn't figure it out. I actually got a message from, you all know him, his name's Jason Drew. Bro, thanks for letting me know about what I did. So apparently, the turbo for over a year plus, I've always tried to get more than like 40, 41 PSI out of the GSX. But the problem is I could never get more than that. I've always wondered why. I changed wastegates, I did springs, I did diaphragms, I messed with the vacuum lines, you know, the boost controllers. I did a bunch of stuff trying to figure out why I can't get more than 40 PSI of boost on this GSX. Well, guess what, guys? Jason Drew, thank you. He informed me, I feel like an idiot really, that a 4-bar map sensor, okay, does not go up to 58 PSI like I thought. They do, it's just you gotta minus the 14 PSI for atmospheric pressure. So technically they only read about 42, 43 PSI with a little bit of accuracy loss there. So guess what? My biggest problem was the 4-bar map sensor that I had, because I needed a 5-bar map sensor. And that's why I always thought I was only running 40 PSI boost. When actually, in reality, I've actually been running probably like 45 to 48 PSI boost on this car, and I just had no idea. Again, Jason Drew, dude, thank you so much. I appreciate it, man. Thanks for telling me something that was so obvious that I just completely spaced it. It happens. Thanks, dude. We'll see ya. Bye.